dance for joy or lust or anger, and every time you haven't got it right.
Welcome to Sensible Secondhand Classics, the series where we look at practical and sensible cars that are over 15 years old that you can buy for a budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 1975 Vauxhall Victor FE 2300S. But is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? So the Vauxhall Victor is a nameplate that many of you will remember. They made these from 1957 until 1978 technically, although we'll come back to that later. This is an example of the sort of 5th generation car, really. They were known initially as Victors and Venturas. The Ventura was the 6-cylinder version. But in 1976, they changed the name to the VX 1800 or VX 2300, depending on the engine size. Ventura had a 3.3 litre engine, which was about 140 horsepower, but we're focusing really on the slant 4 engine cars. First of all, the 1.8 engine had 77 horsepower when it was launched in 1972. The 2.3 engine, which like this one, that had 100 horsepower. And then there was a VX 490 version of this slant 4 with 112 horsepower. Later on, the facelift which occurred, well, it's not really facelift, but the renaming which occurred in January 1976, the 1.8 was upgraded to 88 horsepower. The 2.3 was changed to 108 horsepower. And then the VX490 was reintroduced in 1977, having been discontinued along with Ventura in January 76. When it was reintroduced, it got 116 horsepower and a nice 5-speed Getrag manual with a dog leg, like the one I've driven in a Chevette HSR. The car without power steering in this 2300S model, which was actually like a sort of special edition towards the end of the Victor's life before it became the VX 2300, is a little bit heavy at parking speed, but it's sort of alright. Gearbox is a bit weird, it's quite floppy and the throw's really long on this. I think actually the spacing on these ratios is also a little bit strange. I mean, we're in second gear because we're in Wales, and I do 20 miles an hour, and it seems almost a little bit low, really. It's strange. So I can't imagine what you'd be doing on the on a motorway in the 4th, because we don't have the 5-speed gearbox in this. Bizarrely, one of the things advertised in the FE Victors when they were launched in 1972 was the fact that all the cars got a 4-speed gearbox. The FD Victors, such as the one which was in Randall Hocker deceased in sort of 69 when that series was first shown, those had an optional 4-speed. Some of them were 3-speed. I think that one in the series was a 4-speed, but I can't remember that now. So yeah, I'm going to wind this window up a little bit. Into 4th. Yeah, like even 3rd at sort of 40 is straining it a bit, so I can't imagine what this is like as a cruiser. The fact that Vauxhall marketed these FE Victors when they came out as the Transcontinentals, and they didn't really give you an overdrive option by the time that this car was actually registered in 1975, suggests to me that it was sort of lying a little bit, but you know, there we go. Brake seems sort of okay. It's just this sort of floppy gearbox that really sort of belies the age of the car. I'm getting quite a few looks actually driving around in this, because it's just such an old-fashioned car and you don't see them. Well, I'm afraid it's a little bit windy here, viewers, but it's a nice quiet location anyway to have a look at the lines of this FE Victor. Although, as you'll see, we don't have a Victor badge on this particular car. It was still sold as the Victor though until January 76, so we're fairly confident we can call it that. The 2300S model, which this is, was like a run-out model before the VX 1800 and VX 2300 were officially launched. So yeah, states from 75, early 75 on it then. So you've got things like chrome rim embellishers and nice vinyl roof. This was not as well specified as the top of the range one of these, which was the GLS. Of course, you go for a Ventura as well, but was even more than this. But the styling of this, it's very, very sort of 70s and very almost American looking. One of the things you'll notice is that the door handles, I think, are shared with the Opel Record D. In fact, the entire floor pan of this car is shared with that. None of the panels are interchangeable. And you'll notice on this rear window that actually the glass has no quarter light in it, so you can't wind the windows all the way down, which Vauxhall said was a safety feature, but some people would just say it's annoying. I haven't actually unlocked these doors on here, so we'll have to do that in a second. Very, very plain at the back. As you can see, no Victor badge on it. I've asked Mr. Charles if that's standard, and apparently it is. Lovely old-fashioned number plate with a raised lettering on it, and then someone's also fitted a tow bar at some stage in the distant past. Got the aerial on there as well. So it's not concours or anything. You can see some sort of like light bits of surface rust in certain places, but actually it's pretty solid overall. One thing I do really appreciate about this car is the interior. It's got, I think this is fake wood as far as I understand it. It's not real wood or anything, but it's so typical of the 1970s. Look at this. For the autofocus, we'll just sort stuff out. Come on, autofocus. There. No rev counter in this. You probably need to go out to like a VX490 if that's what you wanted. But yeah, wooden bit on the steering wheel. Old-fashioned in that the wipers are on the left-hand side, indicator stalks on the right. They're similar to like a Chevette or something like that. Door card, very, very sort of old-fashioned looking, almost like 60s, I'd say, and trimmed in luxurious vinyl. Choke lever up there. That lever is for the lights, and then really, really simple. The demist and the fan, just actually quite a lot simpler than some of the other cars at the time that I've seen. Radio, for some reason, is down there, which is insane. Like, what's wrong with putting it there? I don't understand. Never mind. No locking glove box on this car for some reason. It just sort of twists like this if it comes up. There we go. And then a really bizarre amount of, sort of space. One thing I sort of noticed is that this is similar in a way to a dashboard in something like a Mark II Cavalier, and that it's all sort of like a cliff face. It sort of slopes exactly the wrong way that from what you'd expect. It's just brilliant though. There's nothing to say really. You have full width parcel shelf, sort of half of it anyway along here. Some speakers down there for the stereo. 4-speed manual. It actually was revolution of Vauxhall to not offer a 3-speed gearbox on these. The FD Victors had a 3-speed gearbox you could get, although most of them I think were 4-speed. The end of the key goes just in there. There's not really much else to say. Like a BMW, we've got an organ pedal for the accelerator. Right, let's get in the back, shall we, Viz? So, separate key for the boot, like all really old cars. I put the keys somewhere safe so I don't lock them in the boot, which would be rubbish. Again, like a lot of the stuff from the 1970s, the boot cell's really, really high. I mean, the capacity is quite good. If you really wanted to have more space, I mean, you might not need it in this. There's loads of room. You could go for the Estate. That looks a bit weird, a bit like a hatchback. But there's still a load of space in here. I love this really, really kind of plain panel here, just with a little Vauxhall logo on here. Just nice, simple design. Although the boot's got this huge step in there. I mean, the seats don't fold or anything, so just got to be careful of that. That should probably live up there. That's down for some reason at the moment. But we have got a matching spare to all the rest of the tyres, which is good. Right, T's are definitely out of here, so we'll just close that. There we go. Right, so we'll get in the back now. Test for credentials of this. Oh my gosh, that seat's low. Wow. Wow, I've got loads of headroom. It's like the old sort of Ford Cortinas where, you know, you didn't look like there was a lot of room, but because the seat goes down such a long way, and there is a little bit of sort of wear, the usual place, top of the rear seats. This is vinyl, this possible. It's hard. It's interesting. And we've got an armrest. That's pretty good, you know, in here. It feels like, you know, if you had a taxi or something and the record D's actually, but record C, record D. Anyway, the records of this time were used as taxis quite a lot, and there's loads of room, especially if, obviously, on the record you could wind a window all the way down to see how far this one goes. Oh, oh. That's it. That's all you get. Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's safer in a way, but oh dear, that needs a WD-40 or something. Yeah, that's all you get. And then fixed seatbelts. My arch nemesis, fixed seatbelts, autofocus will actually work. There we go. Yeah, ashtray down here, because of course it's the 70s and so everybody smokes. It could be nice and comfy, but it's quite strange this way in that it's got two separated seats. The sort of middle person here obviously has a raw deal in comparison to everybody else, but there we go. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet, shall we? Under here, this is a 2.3 litre so-called slant 4 engine. In this case developing about 100 horsepower. It's right canted over there, it's quite an angle really. This engine was used from about 1967 to 1983 in various Vauxhall and Bedford products. It's not anything to do with Opel, although we see the floor pan and some of the bits like the door locks and things are shared with the records. This engine is unique to Vauxhall and Bedford. It's pretty easy to work on, longitudinal layout. Actually, you can see where you could just fit the 3.3 6-cylinder engine into the Ventura, because you don't need sort of so much space in here, do you? It sits quite far back. So yeah, interesting that a lot of the normal things you expect to be upright, like, you know, the carb there, is sort of tilted over to the side. Brakes, servo, fantastic. We like brake servos, not even a remote one, a proper brake servo, so the brakes should be alright in this. Yeah, so pretty easy to work on, I would imagine, if you wanted to do certain things in here. Actually, for considering the age of the car, this is getting on for 50 years old, this car now, so it's not in a complete sort of heap. There's just a bit of surface rust, but you know, it's pretty normal for something like this. Got little Vauxhall emblems in the headlamps. Right, okay, let's go for a little spin again, shall we? Sort of marketing wise, we're kind of between a Cortina and a Granada, if that makes sense. So the interior space is definitely more than something like, I don't know, Mark 3, Mark 4 Cortina. Definitely more than that, but it's not quite as big as a Granada. And the engine range in this, with you know, 1.8 all the way up to 3.3 litres originally, would suggest that actually it did compete with kind of lower end Granadas in some ways in consoles initially, when this car was launched about the same time as the Mark 1 Granada console in 1972. Steering is a little bit on the vague side. It's not quite as vague as a very vague vlog, but it's sort of definitely there. I'm quite enjoying this actually. It handles all right. It's sort of, it's a little bit like, in some ways, the Datsun 260C that I drove in 2021. That was an automatic though. It was a similar colour to this and a similar sort of American-inspired styling, and also no power steering. And yes, I am familiar with the fact that Ian Seabrook from the Hubnut channel drove this car in 2014 and didn't like it. It's currently owned by Mr. Martin Charles from the Grand Thrift Auto channel. You might have also seen his review of it, which was recorded a couple of years ago. And he likes it a bit more than Ian Seabrook did. In fact, he likes it so much that he bought it, which sort of says something about, I don't know, whether Martin Charles has very strange taste in cars, which he kind of does, or if this is a much better car than Ian Stevens said it was. I'll leave that up to you to decide. But on these nice open roads that we're on today in Wales, I'm very much enjoying myself. It's not a sporty car particularly. It's a nice, large kind of executive stroke family car, and it feels very, very typical at the time. I feel like I'm about to be called for a scene on the Professionals, and we did use a few of these FE Vauxhalls in the Professionals, most notably an episode called Runner that was filmed in 1979, which was involved in an action sequence, and you apparently can get the rear wheels to well, spin if you want, but we don't sort of drive like that on this channel, do we, viewers? We're a bit more sedate. So viewers, in conclusion, is this a car that you should consider for your hard-earned budget to be between £1,000 and £5,000 as a sensible second-hand classic? Well, Mr. Charles quite likes this car, and I sort of do as well. You have to adopt quite a sort of different mentality when driving something like this from a lot of cars. And if you just sort of imagine that actually you're not in a hurry and you're in the 70s, and you're just taking the family around, or you're on your way to work in the finance office or whatever where you've been given this as a company car, then it makes a lot of sense. I don't know particularly what parts of availability is like for something like this. I know on a something like a Cortina or Mark 1 Granada, then it's reasonably okay. This, I'm not sure. They tend to be sort of rare. You don't see a lot of these around. I have seen a very, very rare Victor 3300 Estate, which was actually made before the Venturas came out. Odd, to sort of make it less luxurious because it was an estate, but that was the sort of way things were. And this, not as luxurious as a GLS, not as fast as a VX490, but just sort of comfortable and, just about luxurious enough to keep people interested. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Thank you to Mr. Charles from Grand Fifth Daughter for letting me have a go in this. And we shall see you again soon for some more reasonably priced nostalgic motoring.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Every blue day, every day with blue skies.